Hello everyone, RP Heaven here, a Bulgarian-born psychologist, business coach and writer, and author of Awakening Ignited, published by Olympia Publishers England in 2021. Most of you may know me by my real name, Araya Petrova, and this is going to be a behind-the-scenes type of account in which we explore the unusual storyline of my book, how it came to life, what inspired me to write it, how it can help you in your awakening process, and we are going to discuss my journey as an author as well. So with this, I hope that I will achieve two things. So first of all, get closer to my readers and followers. Hopefully they will get to know me better as a person. And second, I hope that with this, I'm going to inspire more writers to write more and express themselves more and put themselves out there in case they're lacking the willpower or the courage to do so. So keep watching. In its simplest form, Awakening Ignited can be described as my own personal search for the truth, which was quite intense. In its more complex form, it can be described as a blend between philosophy, psychology, and spirituality that anyone can relate to and everyone needs to some extent nowadays. Awakening Ignited offers you a step-by-step process to achieving awareness, just as the name suggests. But also it offers you an in-depth analysis of very interesting things like the psychology of meaning, psychology of truth, dreams and symbolism, myth, the hidden dark secrets of the unconscious, intuition, and much, much more. It was inspired by a lot of renowned psychologists, philosophers, thinkers, writers, and so on. And for those of you who are hopeless romantics and always wondered why they were like this, you will be also glad to find out that I have dedicated a huge portion of my book to soulmates and the idea of finding that ideal partner, something that is indeed possible if you work on your self-development first, self-growth, and on reinforcing that intuitive power that is within you instead of just relying on chance. And this is something that I was very lucky to achieve myself. I achieved the soulmate experience only after a very specific mindset shift followed by the right action plan, and naturally I wanted to share this with you, my readers. So in a nutshell, how I see Awakening Ignited is a colorful mosaic, is a palette of innate truths, philosophies, and ideas that blends together, and anyone can find something to their liking, or even better, something that will challenge their current ways of thinking or of being. I think that Awakening Ignited challenges a lot of things. Actually, it also challenges the boundaries of mainstream science because it asks questions that could only be answered by senses beyond our 5 physical ones. It also challenges you as a reader to try and turn the supernatural into something quite natural and even use it in your daily life. This is why I discuss intuition and the hidden unconscious processes that happen in your minds, in your unconscious mind. And I dedicate a lot of parts of my book for them just to make it clear that it could be something quite natural. It could be something that you can integrate in your daily life. It doesn't have to be, mysterious or supernatural at all times. And it also challenges you to really ask those questions and go within for the answers. Go deeper in a world which compels you to live, exist on the surface at all times. So in that way, it challenges you as a reader as well to finally go on a quest, on your own personal quest for those spiritual answers that you deserve. Awakening Ignited was a sudden explosion of truths, meanings, and valuable experiences that I have gained and piled up inside over the years. I had always been interested in psychology, philosophy, and so on, and always wanted to write and complete a book, mixing my own account with famous philosophers and psychologists and thinkers and writers like Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, amongst many others. And I tried completing this project many times before, but I was only able to complete it and actually publish it when I was ready. Interestingly enough, this was during the first COVID-19 lockdown in 2020. And I have a theory about this. I think that when a creative mind is left with nothing much more than its own ideas and doubts, two possible things could happen. One of them could be a deep existential crisis, which could take the form of, let's say, severe anxiety or deep depression because you have this suppressed creative energy inside of you. Or the second thing that could happen, which is obviously the better choice, is to actually put that chaos into order and to create a tangible creative product that is going to remain in time and hopefully help other creators or creative minds who are in the same situation too. So I'm really glad that I made the right choice. While the world was literally falling apart, I chose to create something constructive that is going to help others all the way. The Awakening Ignited almost started like a diary, but very quickly turned into something that was going to help others as well. I saw it very, very early on, and I chose just to complete it, and I was able to complete it because I was ready. And this is why it only took me 3 months to complete Awakening Ignited. Not many people believe that, but looking back, it makes sense because this suppressed energy was really inside of me. It wanted to pour out, and I was finally ready, to complete this project that I had in mind early on and throughout the years. I learned so many things. In fact, it was a fascinating process of playing with ideas and researching the things that I'm already interested in. But the most curious and the most interesting thing for me was researching a very particular type of people who have supernatural abilities, supernatural gifts, for lack of a better word. In other words, they have taken their intuition to the next level, to a point in which it no longer is considered natural or normal. I have described the accounts of those people in my book. They're Bulgarian healers and mystics. Some of them have gained international recognition as well as national one. As a child, I had heard about those people. Obviously, living in Bulgaria, I think Bulgarians still speak about them, just because they have offered a lot to the world with their gifts, and they have used them for a good purpose. But I'm really glad I learned about those healers and mystics. First of all, because there's not much content in English about them. So in a way, you will receive exclusive content about those supernaturally gifted people from my book. But more importantly, I'm glad I learned so much about them, because this reinforced my belief and idea and claim of how limited our 5 senses are. Something that I think we should speak more about. And also because those people offer us just a glimpse to another world which should be explored, which is just as important, if not more important, than our material one. What surprised me the most was the overwhelming number of people who actually share the exact beliefs as mine. And specifically, this came as a surprise while I was writing Awakening Ignited, because I had to research other authors and books of the same genre, because I wanted to include some really nice, cool citations and quotes in the chapters of my book. But then I found out that all of those other authors share very similar or exactly the same beliefs as mine when it comes to philosophy of life, existence, purpose, love, and so on. So this is a very interesting thing, because it points out to the fact that all of us can reach one universal truth that is available to anyone and everyone, no matter where we find ourselves in, and no matter where we are from or what generation we live in. There's one universal truth with a capital T that all of us can reach, and Awakening Ignited speaks about that a lot, offers you some knowledge about how you can reach this universal truth. The same thing really happened after I published Awakening Ignited. A lot of my readers, followers, friends, acquaintances came to me and were very open for a discussion about the philosophical and psychological truths that I had shared with Awakening Ignited. They were ready to discuss them with me, and they openly shared how they had really thought about the same things. So again, this came as a surprise to me, but very nice surprise and almost like a relief, knowing that so many people would be open for this kind of discussion. It made me think how we can all unite with having the same beliefs, or at least find something fascinating to talk about and to discuss with each other. Sharing something personal about myself was always the hardest part, partly because I am a very secretive person, and this was actually quite difficult for me even when I was writing Awakening Ignited, because I had to negotiate with myself constantly of whether I should share this or that. But ultimately I decided to include maybe 98% of what I was hesitating about, just because I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, but at the same time I knew it was going to help others. So regardless, if I had to choose 3 secrets or facts about myself, I would start with the fact that I am a synesthete. And if you don't know what that means, it means that I have the very rare psychological condition called synesthesia. It's not anything disabling. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. It is enabling. It is something that I consider a gift, and I'm very, very thankful for. And if you don't know what it is, synesthesia comes from Greek. So syn means together, and esthesia means sense. So kind of togetherness of the senses, blending of the senses. So an example of that would be when I hear music, when I listen to music, in my mind's eye, in my imagination, I see different colors and shapes, and of course I don't see it, in the physical world. It's just in my imagination, but it happens automatically. Another example would be when I think about numbers or letters, any graphemes, right? I always imagine them in their unique colors, which never change. So they're always associated with a certain color. So the number 4 for me is always green, a very specific, tint of green, hue of green. So yeah, synesthesia is a very, very interesting condition. It's quite rare, but it definitely helps your imagination. It helps your memory. It helps you cheat with math a little bit. It definitely helps, I would say, with your quality of life. I would recommend if you research it, because you might have synesthesia without knowing it. A lot of people just live through their childhood, at least, maybe even through their lives sometimes, without even knowing that they have a certain type of synesthesia. There are different types as well. And even if you don't have synesthesia, still research it. There are cool research papers out there online, free to check them out, which point out that even if you don't have synesthesia, if you train your brain in synesthesia, you are going to improve your IQ. So, cool stuff. This is the first thing. Second thing I would say is the fact that I started writing very early on, even in childhood. I always wanted to be a writer, I guess, and I always tried in different ways, made many attempts. Most of them were quite bad, as you can imagine, but there was one particular attempt at writing which I did when I was 9, and I found later on in my late teenage years having completely forgotten about it. And I found this attempt quite interesting because it was surprisingly symbolic and deep for a 9-year-old's attempt at writing. So it had to do with a boy who, after a tragic event in his family, goes into another world with a hidden castle. So he finds a hidden castle. We don't know if this is a parallel universe, or the boy goes back in time, or maybe something else happened. Maybe this is all happening in his head. So we don't know. But The boy goes into this castle, everything is very different, everything is colder, darker. It's not exactly black and white, but if you know that sepia filter in photography, maybe that's the closest thing to the world that is inside that castle. And then this boy finds his doppelganger, finds his ghostly double. And then the fun begins. So I found it super interesting because I think that this was my 9-year-old's attempt at writing about meeting your shadow, right? For those of you who are interested in psychology and know about Carl Jung's work, you know what I mean. If you don't know, I have described a lot about it in Awakening Ignited, how to do shadow work, how to meet with your shadow self in a way. And I think that this was exactly the archetype that I have described in my 9-year-old's attempt at writing. So this is my second secret or fact. I started writing early on. It was mostly bad, but there was this one piece of writing which was quite interesting. I have described it a little bit in Awakening Ignited, and one reader already came to me and said, this story is quite interesting, maybe you should finish it. So I'm not promising anything, but we will see. Probably I will at some point. And the third interesting fact, or secret, it's not exactly a secret, it's more like a fact, but maybe you don't know it. RP Heaven, my pen name, my author's name, is not chosen by chance. In fact, my Bulgarian name, my first name in Bulgarian, Raya, means heaven. So I decided to take this symbolism and just use it in my author's pen name and just add RP in front of heaven, hence RP Heaven as the whole author's pen name. So there you go, 3 secrets, 3 facts about myself. Being authentic, not copying what the others are doing, but really looking for the answers on the inside. I think all of us have access to this creative well, which is timeless and abundant. And even if we pick up the same archetypes or symbols or stories from this creative well, we are going to unfold that evergreen myth in different ways, in unique ways. This is because we as creators, we have something different and unique to give to the world. And a lot of writers should remember this. And most stories nowadays, unfortunately, don't seem authentic enough for me. They seem like they're made with a broken record that plays the same old song over and over again, but it only gets worse and worse over time. And comparing that to something really authentic, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had a very life-changing experience after you've read an amazing, fascinating book, or maybe you have watched an awe-inspiring film? Have you ever wondered why that is? I have a theory. My theory about it is that the writer, the creator, stayed true to themselves and wasn't affected by anything political or anything that is just a social trend at the moment, or is just some kind of change that is happening within society. They have internalized the creative process and they have poured out their pure creative energy taken from this creative well that I was speaking to you about. So I think authenticity is the first thing, is the first rule to making a good story. Firstly, be authentic. Just as we discussed, it's very important that you try to silence that background noise that comes from news, social trends, political agendas, and so on. Second, it's very important that you work on your focus. The writer's block is very easily debunked if we consider the importance of prioritization and focus. Try to avoid phrases like, "I'm only writing when I'm feeling inspired," or "I only sit down to write when the muse comes to me." This is how we make excuses as writers, right? And it's something that we should avoid. Especially if you have this repetitive story in mind that has been there for a while. This is a clear sign that you have this suppressed creative energy that wants to pour out of you. So this is exactly what you need to do. You need to prioritize the process, you need to focus on it. And this is another reason why I wrote Awakening Ignited in 3 months. I totally prioritized it. I focused on it. And this was a choice. And of course, inspiration inevitably comes as you do that. Now, another advice that I could give you is to find writing or reading clubs or events. In your town or city, if you don't have such, then create some. They are very, very valuable because it's not just important to sit down and write in your introverted, creative, artistic space at home, which obviously is very important for the creative process, but maybe just as important is the fact that you need to meet other people of the same, with the same talents, let's say, or maybe of the same way of thinking. So currently I am attending several writing workshops, as well as a reading club, as well as a philosophy discussions club, just to fine-tune my creativity and intuition and exchange ideas and symbols with other creative souls or other deep thinkers. And of course, again, inspiration inevitably comes because when you meet those people, very interesting kind of energy bubble is formed around you, and you might have even the light bulb moments, which brings you to your next writing project. So very important, networking and meeting with other similar people. And last but not least, no matter what you do, just keep writing. Even if it's 1 word per day and 1 sentence per week, or even 1 word per week, or even if it's just revising and editing, it's just important that you don't stop. Treat your writing project like a piece of art. Treat it like a sculpture. You want to work on it while it's still warm. You don't want to leave it cold for too long. So again, those are the pieces of advice that I want to give you, something that I had to learn, through my process of writing, and hopefully they will be useful to you as well. I don't want to give out too much information, but I am working on my second book, which actually is going to be a novel of the urban fantasy genre. And it touches on some of the same topics that Awakening Ignited does. For example, the fight for the truth, and also developing a very strong intuition which borders on the supernatural. I can just tell you that my characters are going to have very unique gifts that you won't be able to read about in other urban fantasy novels. And I'm also including some Easter eggs from Awakening Ignited, so that the readers of my first book are going to get those little clues and signs in my second book as well. So nothing more to say apart from the fact that I'm really hoping my second book is going to come out sometime in 2024. So stay tuned for that. I'm really hoping that I'm going to make it happen. So that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching and for being with me. I really hope that you will enjoy Awakening Ignited if you already have a copy for it. And if you're interested in reading more about it, in purchasing it, or if you're just interested in me as an author or in my future writing projects, I do have my social media pages that you can follow, you can visit, including Facebook, Instagram, and Goodreads. I will include the links in the description. And I hope that you will stay inspired. I wish you a very nice, inspiring day and enjoy your quest within.